Fox Movie Tone brings you the world's news. Lowell Thomas speaking.
Rome. In a blazing radio address, Mussolini proclaims his decision, war. Despite the League of Nations, Italy will conquer Ethiopia. Addis Ababa. Haile Selassie protests to the League that the Italians have already invaded Ethiopia. So the Emperor orders complete mobilization. He marshals his hosts of fighting men to defend his frontiers. The Emperor broadcasts an impassioned plea to the outside world to save Ethiopia from Italian conquest. The President of the Ethiopian Parliament speaks, and an American radio man introduces the Emperor especially to America.
Hello, America. This is Addis Ababa.
Qu'il souhaite ardemment et qu'il leur est indispensable.
He defends his country's cause, calls upon the world to stop the war, and declares that Ethiopia is firmly for peace.
De l'an passé, le peuple éthiopien est fermement attaché à la paix, mais il est en même temps...
A nation praying for peace but ready to fight to the last. Rome deciding war. The League of Nations preparing to impose penalties. The clash of arms, the thunders of battle seem more terrifying, as at the radio station of Addis Ababa, the Emperor Haile Selassie pleads for peace.
Il assiste dans leur effort.
You see, while other African kingdoms were falling under the control of various European powers, Selassie had worked hard to secure his nation's sovereignty by making sure Ethiopia became a sovereign member of the League of Nations. Ethiopia's entry into the world's first intergovernmental organization was particularly opposed by Italy, who had long seen Ethiopia as the perfect addition to its sphere of influence in East Africa. Completely disregarding the non-aggression principles agreed by all League of Nations member states, Benito Mussolini's forces embarked on a brutal campaign to take control of Ethiopia and exert revenge for Italy's famous defeat at the 1896 Battle of Adwa. Despite giving an iconic speech in June 1936 at the League of Nations Geneva headquarters, in which he admonished member states for their idleness in the face of Mussolini's aggression, Selassie would be ultimately forced to flee his country when it became clear that there was no stopping the Italian advance. Just 5 years after his glorious coronation, Ethiopia's King of Kings had found himself under the protection of the British Crown in the small English city of Bath, where he was forced to take refuge. A long way away from the luxuries of his imperial palace, the emperor reportedly became so destitute that even the local bookshop refused to extend his credit. The very same man believed to be the African Messiah had been driven out of Africa by one European power and was now only being kept alive thanks to the goodwill of another. Selassie's expulsion from Ethiopia would even see him being branded as a coward by his forerunner, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. But even at this his lowest point, Selassie continued to maintain the support of many others within the African diaspora as the Italian invasion of Ethiopia triggered an overwhelming outpouring of support for the emperor and his nation all around the Caribbean islands and the United States. Salvation eventually came in 1941, when the Italians were driven out of Ethiopia by British forces fighting alongside members of the Ethiopian resistance during the Allied powers' World War II East Africa campaign. Notwithstanding the massive helping hand he received from the Allied powers, Selassie's return to Ethiopia would reinvigorate beliefs about his divinity and, more importantly, build his image as a symbol of African resistance amongst many within the various Pan-African and anti-imperialist movements that had just begun growing at the time.
It is good that you are here
to record this picture of me in my palace garden at Addis Ababa. People who see this throughout the world will realize that even in the 20th century, with faith, courage, and a just cause, David will still beat Goliath.